Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where fire wasn't just for cooking dinner and keeping warm. Drop your city and local time in the comments. It's always wild to think some of you are having breakfast, while I'm here talking about medieval dragon riders. Now dim the lights, maybe light a candle for that gentle glow, and let's walk together into a time when controlling fire meant controlling kingdoms. You wake up in the pre-dawn darkness of a stone tower. Your bed isn't a bed. It's a slab of cold rock with a thin straw mattress that smells like the horse it probably came from. The air tastes like smoke and sulphur, always sulphur, because you live in the firenation capital of Pyria. Outside your narrow window you can hear the distant roar of dragons. Not cute little lizards, actual fire-breathing war machines the size of cathedrals. Your stomach growls. It's been growling since yesterday because food in the Fire Nation isn't about flavour, it's about survival. Breakfast is usually burnt bread and whatever didn't catch fire in last night's cooking experiments. The Fire Nation has mastered the art of turning every meal into charcoal. Congratulations, you've invented disappointment in edible form. The tower shakes slightly. That's either an earthquake or Lord Sozin's war dragon landing on the battlements again. You really hope it's the earthquake. Dragons have moods, and their moods involve things like accidentally incinerating the stable boy, or setting the grain stores on fire. Again, you sit up, and your joints crack loud enough to wake the dead. Sleeping on stone will do that to you. Modern chiropractors would take one look at your spine and immediately quit their profession. Your back feels like someone used it as an anvil, which, considering where you live, might have actually happened. The water in your washing basin has a thin layer of ash floating on top. Everything has ash here. Your clothes, your food, your hair, your hopes and dreams. You splash the gritty water on your face and immediately regret it. It tastes like someone dissolved a campfire in regret. Through the walls you can hear the castle coming alive. Servants shouting orders, armour clanking, and somewhere in the distance, the distinctive sound of someone's eyebrows getting singed off. Just another Tuesday in medieval Fire Nation. You reach for your clothes. They're made of a special Fire Nation fabric that's supposedly fire resistant. It's not. It just burns slower, giving you about 3 extra seconds to regret your life choices before bursting into flames. The fabric is rough, scratchy, and has the fashion sense of a burned potato sack. But it's red and black, the official colours of looking intimidating while being deeply uncomfortable. Your boots are leather, hardened by fire and disappointment. They're waterproof, which doesn't matter because water evaporates before it hits the ground here. They're also insulated, which definitely matters because the floors are heated by natural lava flows. Walking barefoot is how you become a very short person very quickly. The tower room is small, maybe 8 feet by 10 feet. It's not a bedroom, it's a survival pod with a window. The walls are black stone, the floor is black stone, and your future is looking pretty black too. Everything here is designed to withstand dragon fire, which means everything is designed to make you miserable. Comfort is for kingdoms that don't ride giant flame-throwing reptiles into battle. You strap on your sword. Every Fire Nation citizen carries one, not because you're a warrior, but because spontaneous duels are how people settle disputes over things like whose turn it is to feed the dragons and who accidentally burned down the bakery this time. Your sword is made of Fire Nation steel, which means it can withstand dragon fire, but can't cut through anything thicker than parchment. It's more of a very expensive letter opener with delusions of grandeur. The morning horn blows. 3 sharp blasts that mean report for duty or become dragon food. You don't have a choice in this matter. In the Fire Nation, everyone serves the war effort, whether that's fighting enemies, feeding dragons, or occasionally being fed to dragons when morale gets low. Outside your window, you can see the capital city of Pyria stretching out below. Black towers rising from red rock, connected by bridges that span lava rivers. Smoke rises from 1,000 chimneys, and occasionally something that isn't a chimney. The city had a terrible beauty to it, like a sword freshly pulled from the forge, all gleaming sharp edges and deadly potential. A dragon flies overhead, its massive wings blotting out the early morning sun. Its rider sits strapped into a saddle that's basically a chair, made for people with a death wish. Fire Nation Dragoon Riders are either the bravest people in the kingdom or the ones with the worst gambling debts. The dragon lets out a roar that shakes your teeth and leaves your ears ringing. You step out of your room into the tower's spiral staircase. The stairs are carved directly from the mountain, worn smooth by centuries of boots and the occasional dragon tail. They're steep, uneven, and designed by someone who clearly had a grudge against ankles. Each step echoes in the stone shaft, and somewhere far below, you can hear the distinctive sound of the castle's forge working overtime. As you descend, you pass other rooms. Each one houses a member of the Firenation's military hierarchy: captains, lieutenants, dragoon trainers, and people whose job title is officially Keeper of Dragon Moods. The higher your rank, the higher your room, which means the better air quality and the lower chance of being accidentally stepped on by a dragon. The staircase is lit by torches that never go out. Firenation torches burn with a special flame that feeds on sulfur deposits in the walls. They provide light and a constant reminder that you're living inside what's basically a very fancy cave system built into an active volcano. The flames cast dancing shadows that make everything look like it's moving, which is unsettling when you're trying to navigate stairs in semi-darkness. You reach the main floor and push open the heavy wooden door. The great hall of the tower stretches out before you, illuminated by massive fireplaces that burn constantly. The hall is filled with long tables made from Firenation ironwood, a tree that only grows in volcanic soil and is somehow more fire-resistant than metal. The tables are set for the morning meal, if you can call it a meal. The great hall buzzes with conversation and the occasional small explosion. That's what happens when you eat food prepared by people who think medium rare means only slightly on fire. The Firenation has turned cooking into a form of controlled demolition, and breakfast is their daily proof of concept. You take your assigned seat at one of the long tables. Seating in the Firenation is based on rank, proximity to dragons, and how many eyebrows you still have. New recruits sit near the door, ready to flee when the food fights inevitably turn into actual fights. Veterans sit closer to the head table, having earned the right to better food and first access to the fire extinguishers. The servants bring out the morning feast. Feast being a generous term for what looks like the aftermath of a kitchen fire. There's charred bread that could double as roof tiles, eggs that have been cooked so thoroughly they've achieved a new state of matter, and something that might have once been porridge but now resembles volcanic ash mixed with regret. Your table mate, a grizzled dragoon sergeant missing half his moustache, nods at the spread. "Lucky us," he mutters. "Cook didn't burn down the kitchen this time." He takes a bite of bread and immediately reaches for his water cup. The water is warm because cold water doesn't exist in the Firenation. Ice is a myth, like peace treaties and properly cooked food. Across from you sits a young woman in the crimson robes of a firebender trainee. She's about 16, which in Firenation terms means she's either incredibly skilled or incredibly unlucky. Most firebender trainees either master their abilities by 18 or accidentally incinerate themselves trying. She picks at her eggs with the careful attention of someone who knows that breakfast might fight back. "First time in the capital?" she asks, noticing your obvious discomfort with the meal situation. You nod, not trusting yourself to speak while chewing what might be charcoal disguised as sausage. "You'll get used to it," she says, with the confidence of someone who has clearly never gotten used to it. The trick is to eat fast enough that you can't taste it, but slow enough that you don't choke. The head table at the far end of the hall is occupied by the dragon commanders. These are the people who've survived long enough in fire. Nation service to earn the right to ride the biggest, angriest dragons into battle. They wear elaborate armour that's both decorative and functional, because looking intimidating is half of Firenation military strategy. The other half is setting things on fire until they surrender. Lord Commander Jong Jong sits at the centre of the head table, methodically eating his breakfast without any visible signs of displeasure. This is either because he's achieved inner peace, or because he's lost all feeling in his mouth after years of Firenation cuisine. He's famous for being the only person to successfully train a wild dragon without losing any major body parts, though rumours suggest he sacrificed his sense of taste in the process. A commotion near the kitchen door draws your attention. 2 junior officers are arguing over something, their voices rising steadily. In most kingdoms, this would be resolved through discussion, or maybe a formal complaint. In the Firenation, conflicts are settled through Agni Kai, ritualized firebending duels that continue until someone surrenders or becomes a cautionary tale about anger management. 50 coppers on the tall one, whispers the sergeant next to you. Betting on impromptu duels is a major form of entertainment in the Fire Nation, partly because there isn't much else to do for fun, and partly because everyone needs a hobby that doesn't involve dragons. The argument escalates when one officer accidentally bumps the other's breakfast tray, sending charred eggs flying across the stone floor. In the Fire Nation, this is considered either an act of war or foreplay, depending on the relationship status of the people involved. The hall goes quiet as everyone turns to watch, because witnessing someone else's humiliation is free entertainment. Before things can progress to actual violence, Lord Commander Jong Jong stands and clears his throat. The sound echoes through the hall like thunder, and everyone immediately goes back to pretending to eat their breakfast. The two officers bow stiffly to each other and sit down, their conflict temporarily forgotten in the face of superior authority and the very real possibility of being assigned to dragon cleaning duty. The meal continues in relative peace, punctuated by the occasional coughing fit from people who forgot that Fire Nation spices are classified as chemical weapons in neighbouring kingdoms. The spices aren't added for flavour, they're added to build tolerance to smoke inhalation and to ensure that Fire Nation citizens can breathe during dragon flights without passing out. As you work your way through breakfast, you notice the conversations around you. People discuss patrol schedules, dragon maintenance, and the ongoing war with the Earth Kingdom. The Earth Kingdom apparently has the audacity to resist being conquered by people riding fire-breathing lizards. Their stubbornness is both admirable and deeply inconvenient for Fire Nation expansion plans. Young Page approaches your table carrying a message scroll sealed with red wax. In the Fire Nation, messages are always urgent because non-urgent information tends to get burned up in the general chaos of daily life. The page hands the scroll to the sergeant, who breaks the seal and reads quickly, his remaining eyebrow rising in surprise. "Dragon training," he announces to the table. "New recruits report to the dragon pits after breakfast." He looks directly at you. "That includes you, rookie. Hope you said goodbye to any family members you're particularly fond of, because statistically speaking, you might not see them again." The firebender trainee across from you gives you a sympathetic look. "Dragon training isn't that bad," she says. "I mean, yes, people die, but mostly they just get maimed or permanently traumatized, and burns heal. Eventually. Sometimes." You finish your breakfast, which is to say you stop actively chewing the charcoal and ash mixture, and pretend you've been nourished. Your stomach feels like you've swallowed a campfire, which might actually be an improvement over how Fire Nation food normally makes you feel. At least campfires are warm and provide light. The hall begins to empty as people head off to their various duties. Some go to the armory to maintain weapons that need to withstand dragon fire, others to the training yards where they practice not being eaten by their own mounts. A few lucky individuals get assigned to administrative duties, which in the Fire Nation means calculating how much food gets destroyed in kitchen fires and how many replacement dragon riders need to be recruited each month. You stand up from the table, your legs slightly unsteady from the combination of fear and whatever chemical compounds were in that breakfast sausage. The stone floor is warm beneath your feet, heated by the network of lava tubes that run throughout the castle. It's practical for keeping everyone from freezing to death, and it adds a certain dramatic flair to walking around, knowing that molten rock is flowing just a few feet below you. The sergeant claps you on the back with enough force to dislodge any remaining pieces of breakfast from your throat. "Don't look so worried," he says with the kind of cheerful brutality that Fire Nation veterans are famous for. "Dragon training builds character. Sure, it also builds burn scars and a healthy respect for things with teeth the size of swords, but character is important too." As you follow the other new recruits toward the dragon pits, you catch sight of yourself in one of the polished metal mirrors that line the hallway. You look exactly like what you are. Someone who has made a series of life choices that led to volunteering to climb onto the back of a creature that views humans as either riders or snacks, depending on its mood. The morning sun streams through the narrow windows, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Outside, you can hear the sounds of the Fire Nation going about its daily business, the roar of dragons, the clash of metal on metal from the training yards, and the occasional scream of someone who forgot that everything here is hot, and most things are on fire. The dragon pits are exactly what they sound like. Enormous holes carved into the volcanic rock where dragons live when they're not setting things on fire for entertainment. The smell hits you first. A combination of sulphur, charred meat, and what you really hope is just dragon droppings, but suspect might be the remains of previous trainees who didn't work out. Master Piandao, the head dragon trainer, stands at the edge of the main pit wearing armour that's been patched so many times it looks like metal quilting. His face is a roadmap of burn scars, and his left arm ends in a mechanical hand that sparks occasionally. He's been training dragons for 30 years, which in Firenation terms means he's either incredibly skilled or incredibly lucky. Possibly both. "Listen up, rookies," he calls out in a voice that sounds like gravel mixed with smoke. "Today you meet your dragons. Some of you will bond with your mount and begin a partnership that will last for years. Others will provide a valuable lesson about natural selection. Try to be in the first group." The dragon pits are arranged in a series of terraced levels, each one housing a different type of dragon. The smallest pits contain training dragons, about the size of the large horses but with significantly more teeth and a much worse attitude. These dragons are used for basic riding instruction and for weeding out recruits who faint at the sight of large reptiles. Level 2 houses the war dragons, massive beasts with wingspans that can block out the sun and breath weapons that can melt castle walls. These dragons are partnered with experienced riders and are responsible for most of Firenation's military victories and civilian casualties. Their eyes glow like molten gold, and they watch the new recruits with the kind of interest that a cat shows a particularly slow mouse. The top level, barely visible from where you're standing, houses the legendary ancient dragons. These creatures are older than the Firenation itself, and their riders are chosen by the dragons, not by human commanders. Most people never see an ancient dragon up close, and those who do either become legends or cautionary tales, depending on how the meeting goes. Master Piandao leads your group to the training level, where a dozen young dragons are chained to metal posts. The chains aren't really meant to hold them, they're more of a polite suggestion that the dragon should stay in one general area. A truly motivated dragon could break free in seconds, but most of them are content to wait around and see what kind of entertainment the humans will provide. Your first lesson, Piandao announces, is understanding dragon psychology. Dragons are not horses with wings and fire breath. They're intelligent, proud, and utterly convinced that they're the superior species. They're probably right, but don't let them know you agree with them. Confidence is key. Show fear, and you'll be crispy in seconds. Show too much confidence, and you'll be crispy in slightly more seconds. He stops in front of a medium-sized dragon with crimson scales and eyes like burning coals. The dragon watches him with the patient attention of a predator evaluating lunch options. "This is Spark," Piandao says. "She's killed 3 trainers, injured 12 more, and once burned down half the dragon pits during what we diplomatically call a misunderstanding. She's also one of the most skilled flying dragons we have. Dragons appreciate honesty, even when the truth is that you're terrified." Spark yawns, revealing teeth the size of dinner knives and a throat that glows within a fire. Her tail, thick as a tree trunk and covered in spikes, swishes lazily against the stone floor, leaving small scratches in rock that's supposed to be indestructible. She's beautiful in the way that active volcanoes are beautiful. Magnificent, dangerous, and likely to kill you if you get too close. One of the other recruits, a cocky young man with perfectly groomed hair, steps forward. "I'll take her," he announces, with the kind of confidence that usually precedes spectacular failure. "How hard can it be? It's just a big lizard." Master Piandao's scarred face breaks into what might be a smile, if smiles were carved by people who'd seen too much death. "Excellent attitude," he says. "Spark loves confidence. Go ahead, introduce yourself." The recruit approaches Spark with swagger that would be impressive if it weren't so obviously doomed. He reaches out to pat her snout, the same way you might approach a friendly dog. Spark waits until his hand is inches from her nose, then snorts a small puff of flame that singes off his eyebrows and leaves his carefully groomed hair looking like a burned bird's nest. "First lesson learned," Piandao notes calmly as the recruit stumbles backward, patting frantically at his smoking hair. Dragons don't appreciate being treated like pets. They're partners, not property. Show respect or get barbecued. You watch as the other recruits take their turns approaching various dragons. Most interactions end with minor burns, torn clothing, or the kind of terrified screaming that echoes through the pits and provides entertainment for the experienced dragons on the upper levels. One recruit actually manages to touch his assigned dragon without getting injured, which earns him a round of applause from the trainers and suspicious looks from the other dragons. Finally, it's your turn. Master Piandao leads you to a smaller dragon with blue-black scales that shimmer like oil in the sunlight. Her name is Suki, and she's apparently known for being thoughtful, which in dragon terms might mean anything from less likely to eat you immediately to prefers to marinate her food before consumption. Suki is smaller than the other dragons, but her muscles ripple under her scales with obvious power. Her eyes are deep blue, almost purple, and they study you with an intelligence that's frankly unsettling. She doesn't move as you approach, but her head tilts slightly, following your movement with the precision of a predator calculating distance and escape routes. Suki's different, Piandao explains quietly. She's smarter than most dragons, which makes her both easier and harder to work with. She won't try to barbecue you out of simple aggression, but she will if she decides you're not worth her time. Dragons like Suki choose their riders based on merit, not just survival instincts. You stop about 6 feet from Suki, close enough to see the individual scales on her snout, but far enough to run if things go badly. Her breathing is slow and controlled, and with each exhale, small wisps of smoke curl from her nostrils. The smell is oddly pleasant, like a campfire mixed with cinnamon and the promise of violence. "What do I do?" you ask, trying to keep your voice steady. Fear is natural, but showing it might end with you becoming a very brief cautionary tale. "Talk to her," Piandao suggests. Dragons understand more than most people think. They might not speak human languages, but they're excellent at reading intentions, emotions, and the exact level of terror you're trying to hide. You take a deep breath, immediately regretting it as your lungs fill with sulphur-scented air, and look directly into Suki's eyes. "Hello," you say, feeling slightly ridiculous, but committed to not being incinerated on your first day. "I'm new here. I've never ridden a dragon before, and I'm honestly terrified. But I'm trying to be brave, and I'd be honoured to learn from you." Suki's head tilts further, and something that might be amusement flickers in her deep blue eyes. She takes a step forward, closing the distance between you, and lowers her head until her snout is level with your chest. Her breath is warm against your face, and you can feel the controlled power in her movements. Very slowly she extends her neck until her forehead touches your outstretched hand. Her scales are warm and smooth, like polished stone that's been sitting in sunlight. The contact lasts only a few seconds, but it feels like something significant has passed between you. Understanding, maybe, or at least mutual recognition that you're both stuck in this situation and might as well make the best of it. "Well," Master Piandao says, and there's genuine surprise in his voice. "That's new. Suki usually takes at least a week to decide whether she likes someone. Either you're naturally gifted with dragons, or she's planning something elaborate and wants you to trust her first." The other recruits gather round, staring at you and Suki with expressions ranging from admiration to envy to barely concealed fear. Being chosen by a dragon is an honour, but it's also a responsibility that comes with the constant possibility of death by fire if you disappoint your mount. Suki steps back and settles into a resting position, her wings folded against her sides and her tail curled around her feet like a cat. She continues watching you with those intelligent blue eyes, and you get the distinct impression that she's taking your measure, deciding whether you're worth the effort of training, or if she should just eat you now and save everyone the trouble. "Tomorrow," Master Piandao announces, "you'll begin basic riding instruction. Tonight spend time near your dragons. Talk to them, get used to their presence, and try not to do anything that might offend them. Dragons have long memories and creative approaches to revenge." As the other recruits disperse to nervously hover near their assigned mounts, you find yourself sitting cross-legged on the stone floor near Suki's resting spot. She watches you with calm attention, occasionally huffing small puffs of smoke that you choose to interpret as signs of mild approval, rather than warnings about your impending doom. The sun is setting over the Firenation capital, painting the sky in shades of red and gold that match the colours of dragonfire. From the dragon pits you can see the sprawling city below, with its black towers and red bridges spanning rivers of lava. Smoke rises from countless chimneys, and the distant roar of dragons echoes through the volcanic peaks that surround the capital. This is your new life, partner to a creature that could incinerate you with a sneeze, citizen of a nation built on conquest and controlled fire, and trainee in an army that rides dragons into battle like other people ride horses to market. It's terrifying, dangerous, and completely insane. You can't wait to see what happens next. 3 weeks into dragon training, you've learned that basic riding instruction is firenation code for systematic torture with educational value. Your body is a constellation of burns, bruises, and what Master Piandao cheerfully calls wisdom-earning injuries. Your relationship with Suki has evolved from mutual wariness to something resembling partnership, assuming partnerships typically involve one party occasionally threatening to incinerate the other when they're having a bad day. The morning starts with stretching exercises designed to prepare your body for the unique physical demands of dragon riding. These demands include staying conscious while travelling at speeds that turn birds into projectiles, maintaining your grip while your mount performs aerial manoeuvres that defy several laws of physics, and not vomiting on your dragon when she decides that loop-de-loops are a fun way to test your breakfast retention abilities. Suki watches your pre-flight routine with the patient amusement of a creature who finds human fragility endlessly entertaining. She's learned your schedule and has started timing her own warm-up exercises to coincide with yours, stretching her wings and flexing her claws in a display that's both beautiful and mildly threatening. Dragons, you've discovered, are natural show-offs. Today, we work on takeoffs, Master Piandao announces, his mechanical hand sparking as he gestures toward the launching platform. The platform is a stone ledge that extends over a 1,000-foot drop into the lava pools below. It's designed to provide motivation for successful flying, because the alternative to staying airborne is becoming a very brief geological feature. The other recruits line up with their dragons, each pair displaying varying levels of mutual trust and barely suppressed terror. The recruit with the singed eyebrows has been assigned a different dragon, after his first mount requested a transfer to anyone less stupid. His new partner is a patient older dragon named Momo, who specialises in training riders with confidence issues and death wishes. You approach Suki's saddle with the careful movements of someone who has learned that sudden gestures around dragons can result in unexpected barbecuing. The saddle is made from firenation leather reinforced with metal plates, designed to withstand dragon fire, crash landings, and the occasional bite from your mount when she's feeling playful. It's not comfortable, but comfort is a luxury for people who don't ride fire-breathing apex predators. Suki lowers herself to allow you to mount, a gesture of cooperation that still feels miraculous after weeks of training. Her scales are warm under your legs, and you can feel the powerful muscles moving beneath her skin as she prepares for flight. Her breathing is steady and controlled, but there's an edge of excitement in her movements. Dragons love flying the way humans love breathing, which is to say it's essential, and they get cranky when deprived of it. Remember, Piandao calls out, trust your dragon's instincts. They've been flying since before humans figured out fire. Your job is to stay on, stay alive, and try not to embarrass your entire species. Suki moves to the edge of the platform with fluid grace, her claws gripping the stone as she peers over the drop. The wind whips around the ledge, carrying the scent of sulphur, and the distant roar of the lava flows below. This is the moment of truth, the point where all your training either pays off or becomes a very short and violent learning experience. Ready? You ask, not entirely sure if you're talking to Suki or yourself. She turns her head to look at you with those intelligent blue eyes, and there's something almost like encouragement in her expression, or possibly hunger. With dragons, it's sometimes hard to tell the difference. Suki launches herself from the platform with explosive power, her wings catching the air with a sound like thunder. The world drops away beneath you, and suddenly you're flying, actually flying, soaring over the Firenation capital on the back of a creature that treats gravity as a minor inconvenience. The sensation is indescribable. Terror and exhilaration combine into something that might be joy, if joy came with the constant possibility of death. The wind tears at your clothes and brings tears to your eyes, but you're grinning like an idiot because you're flying on a dragon and somehow still alive to appreciate it. Suki banks to the left, following the course marked by floating targets suspended from balloons. Your job is to stay mounted while she demonstrates the basic flight maneuvers that dragon riders need to survive aerial combat. Banking, diving, climbing, and the dreaded barrel roll that turns your stomach inside out and tests your commitment to remaining conscious. The city spreads out below you like a map come to life. The black towers and red bridges look different from above, part of a grand design that becomes apparent only from Dragonback. Smoke rises from forges and kitchens, and tiny figures move through the streets like ants with purpose. From up here, the Firenation looks less like a military dictatorship and more like an elaborate work of art carved from volcanic rock and human ambition. Suki executes a perfect dive toward one of the training targets, pulling up at the last second in a maneuver that presses you deep into the saddle and makes your vision go grey around the edges. She breathes a controlled burst of flame that incinerates the target completely, leaving only ash and the smell of victory. After surviving your first official flight without becoming a stain on the landscape, you're promoted to combat training. This involves learning to fight while mounted on a creature that considers warfare a form of artistic expression. Dragon combat, Master Piandao explains, is equal parts strategy, acrobatics, and improvised disaster management. The training grounds are located on a mesa overlooking the capital, equipped with practice dummies, target ranges, and medical facilities for when training gets a little too realistic. The dummies are made from Firenation ironwood and stuffed with materials designed to simulate enemy armour. They're replaced daily because dragons tend to get enthusiastic during practice sessions. Your first weapon is a dragon rider's lance, a 12-foot spear tipped with Firenation steel and weighted for use from Dragonback. It's designed to punch through armour while maintaining balance during aerial manoeuvres, which sounds simple until you try coordinating a lance thrust with a dragon, performing a high-speed turn at 300 feet above solid rock. Suki seems to enjoy combat training more than basic flying exercises. Her movements become more aggressive, more purposeful, as if she's remembering instincts that predate human civilization. She snaps at the practice dummies with playful ferocity, occasionally setting them on fire just to keep things interesting. Dragons are natural warriors, explains Captain Zhao, the combat instructor whose collection of scars suggests extensive field experience. They understand strategy, tactical positioning, and the psychological impact of being a giant flying predator. Your job is to complement their abilities, not direct them. Think of yourself as a weapons platform with opinions. The other recruits struggle with varying degrees of success. Some have natural aptitude for aerial combat, moving in harmony with their dragons as if they were born to fight from the sky. Others display the coordination of drunk toddlers and spend most of training sessions trying not to fall off their mounts while accidentally threatening their own allies with poorly aimed weapons. You discover that you and Suki have an unusual synchronization. She anticipates your movements, adjusting her flight path to give you better attack angles without being asked. When you shift your weight to target practice enemies, she banks at precisely the right moment to line up the shot. It's like dancing with a partner who happens to be a fire-breathing reptile with strong opinions about aerial tactics. Interesting, Captain Zhao observes, watching you and Suki demolish a line of practice targets with coordinated precision. Most rider-dragon pairs take months to develop that kind of integration. Either you're naturally gifted, or Suki's been holding back her abilities until she found a rider worth the effort. The combat exercises escalate in complexity. You learn to fight multiple opponents simultaneously, using Suki's superior speed and maneuverability to separate enemies and defeat them individually. You practice formation flying with other dragon riders, coordinating attacks that combine fire breath with lance strikes for maximum tactical effectiveness. The most challenging exercise involves aerial dueling against other trainee pairs. It's non-lethal combat using blunted weapons and dragons trained to avoid actually incinerating their opponents, but it's still terrifyingly real. The first time another dragon breathes fire in your direction, even controlled training fire, your entire body floods with adrenaline and the absolute certainty that you're about to die. Suki responds to the attack by rolling inverted and diving beneath the other dragon, positioning you for a perfect counterstrike. Her movements are fluid and precise, and there's something almost like anger in the way she maneuvers. Dragons apparently take threats to their riders personally. Dragon training is interrupted by summons to attend a court ceremony, because even in a military dictatorship, politics finds a way to complicate everything. You're issued formal attire that's somehow less comfortable than your regular Firenation uniform, which you didn't think was possible. The formal robes are designed to look impressive while ensuring maximum physical discomfort, because suffering builds character and characters build empires. The Fire Lord's throne room is a masterpiece of intimidating architecture. Black marble columns support a vaulted ceiling decorated with murals depicting historical Firenation victories, most of which involve dragons incinerating large numbers of enemy soldiers. The throne itself is carved from a single piece of volcanic glass and positioned to catch the light from carefully arranged braziers, creating an effect that makes whoever sits there look like they're surrounded by controlled hellfire. Firelord Ozai sits on the throne with the casual confidence of someone who rules through a combination of military might and strategic dragon deployment. He's younger than you expected, maybe 40, with a kind of sharp features that suggest intelligence, and the kind of cold eyes that suggest he's comfortable ordering executions before breakfast. Citizens of the Fire Nation, his voice carries easily through the massive hall. We stand at the threshold of a new age. Our armies have conquered the outer territories of the Earth Kingdom. Our navy controls the shipping lanes. Our dragons dominate the skies. But victory in war is only the beginning of true conquest. The assembled crowd consists of military officers, government officials, and selected citizens deemed worthy of hearing state policy announcements. Everyone wears their finest clothes and their most attentive expressions, because looking bored during a Firelord speech is considered treasonous in at least 12 different ways. The Earth Kingdom continues to resist our benevolent rule, Ozai continues, his tone suggesting that resistance to Fire Nation conquest is both futile and personally offensive. Their stubbornness has cost them cities, resources, and countless lives. It has cost us time, supplies, and patience. This will end. A murmur runs through the crowd. Military campaigns against the Earth Kingdom have been ongoing for decades, a grinding conflict that consumes resources and produces steady casualties. The Earth Kingdom's ability to fortify cities and fight defensive campaigns has turned what should have been a quick conquest into a prolonged siege warfare nightmare. We have developed new strategies, the Firelord announces, new weapons, new approaches to the problem of stubborn enemies who refuse to accept the inevitable. The dragons will play a central role in these innovations. Your stomach tightens with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Being part of new innovations in Fire Nation military strategy usually means volunteering for assignments that combine high strategic value with correspondingly high mortality rates. After the ceremony, you're approached by a court official wearing robes that suggest high rank and political influence. Her name is Mai, and she has the kind of carefully neutral expression that skilled bureaucrats develop to avoid accidentally revealing their thoughts about the insanity they witness daily. Dragon Rider, she says formally, your training performance has been noted. You and your mount may be selected for special assignment. Report. To command tomorrow at dawn for briefing. Special assignment. In the Fire Nation military, this phrase can mean anything from reconnaissance mission with minimal death risk to suicide mission with strategic importance. The only way to find out which is to show up and hope your life insurance is current. That evening you sit with Suki in the Dragon Pits, sharing a meal of Fire Nation military rations that taste like charcoal mixed with optimism. She seems to sense your unease, resting her great head near your shoulder in a gesture of companionship that's both comforting and slightly alarming given the size of her teeth. "What do you think, girl?" you ask quietly. "Ready for whatever they're planning to throw at us?" Suki huffs a small puff of smoke that you choose to interpret as confident agreement, rather than resigned acceptance of impending doom. Dragons, you've learned, are naturally optimistic creatures. They have to be, considering they've spent centuries partnering with humans and their questionable decision-making abilities. Dawn arrives with the subtlety of a dragon landing on your roof. The command center is located in the highest tower of the Fire Nation capital, a position that provides excellent tactical visibility and serves as a constant reminder that important decisions are made by people who literally look down on everyone else. The briefing room contains a large table covered with maps, tactical charts, and small figurines representing military units. It's the kind of setup that makes war look like an elaborate board game, which is probably intentional. It's easier to make decisions about sacrifice and strategy when you're moving wooden pieces instead of thinking about actual people dying. General Iroh presides over the meeting. a man whose reputation combines tactical brilliance with an unusual fondness for tea and philosophical conversations. He's older than most active military commanders, with grey hair and the kind of steady gaze that suggests he's seen enough war to understand both its necessity and its cost. The situation, he begins without preamble, is this. The Earth Kingdom city of Ba Sing Se has withstood siege for 18 months. Their walls are impregnable, their supplies adequate, and their morale inexplicably high despite being surrounded by our armies. Conventional approaches have failed. The maps show Ba Sing Se as a series of concentric circles, each ring representing a different wall system. The city is built like a fortress within a fortress within a fortress, designed by people who clearly understood that the Firenation would eventually come calling and wanted to make the visit as unpleasant as possible. Intelligence reports indicate the Earth Kingdom has developed new defensive strategies specifically designed to counter dragon attacks. General Iroh continues. Anti-aircraft ballistae, flame-resistant materials, and underground tunnel systems that allow rapid troop movement. They're learning to fight us effectively. This is troubling news. Firenation military doctrine is built around dragon superiority. If the enemy has found ways to neutralize that advantage, it fundamentally changes the strategic balance of the war. Your mission, and here General Iroh's gaze fixes on you and the other selected dragon riders, is reconnaissance in force. We need detailed intelligence about these new defences, their capabilities and their weaknesses. This information will inform our larger strategic plans. Reconnaissance in force, a military euphemism for fly into heavily defended enemy territory and gather information while people try to kill you. It's the kind of mission that provides valuable strategic intelligence and impressive casualty rates. Captain Zhao steps forward to provide tactical details. You'll approach Ba Sing Se in 3 waves. First wave conducts high-altitude reconnaissance, mapping defensive positions. Second wave executes probing attacks against selected targets to test response capabilities. Third wave provides extraction support and emergency backup. The plan sounds reasonable until you consider that it involves flying dragons into range of weapons specifically designed to kill dragons. The Earth Kingdom has had months to prepare for this exact scenario, and they've presumably used that time productively. Questions? General Iroh asks. One of the other riders raises her hand. Sir, what's our priority if we encounter unexpected resistance? Intelligence gathering or survival? Intelligence gathering, General Iroh replies without hesitation. The information you collect will save hundreds of lives in future operations. Your individual survival, while personally important to you, is strategically less significant. This is Firenation military philosophy in a nutshell. Individual sacrifice for collective victory. It's brutally practical and morally uncomfortable, which makes it perfect for building empires and causing nightmares. After the briefing, you have 6 hours to prepare for departure. This involves checking equipment, reviewing flight routes, and writing letters to family members that you hope they'll never need to read. It's traditional for dragon riders to compose their own obituaries before dangerous missions because it ensures accuracy and saves time for whoever has to handle your paperwork if things go badly. Ba Sing Se appears on the horizon like a challenge carved from green stone and stubborn determination. The city's walls rise in massive tiers, each one higher and thicker than anything you've seen. Even from miles away you can see the defensive preparations, ballista positions, archer towers, and what appear to be massive bronze mirrors positioned to reflect sunlight. Those mirrors worry me, mutters Captain Zhao through the communication crystal mounted in your helmet. The crystals allow dragon riders to maintain contact during flights, when normal conversation is impossible due to wind noise and the tendency of dragons to roar without warning. Suki flies with steady wing beats, her attention focused on the approaching city with predatory intensity. She can sense the defensive preparations even better than you can, reading wind patterns and electromagnetic fields that dragons use for navigation. Her muscles are tense beneath you, ready for combat maneuvers at a moment's notice. The first wave begins its reconnaissance pass at maximum altitude, high enough to avoid most ground-based weapons but still within range of detailed observation. Through your spyglass, you can see Earth Kingdom soldiers moving along the walls, their positions coordinated and purposeful. These aren't panicked defenders, they're professionals implementing a prepared strategy. Movement on the walls, reports the wave leader. Ballista crews tracking our approach. Recommend maintaining current altitude and... The communication cuts off in a burst of static as something bright and fast streaks upward from the city. Not an arrow or spear, but a projectile that glows within a fire. It passes close enough to one of the reconnaissance dragons that the rider's alarmed shout is audible even over the wind. They have fire weapons, you report, trying to keep your voice steady. Repeat. Basing C has fire-based projectile weapons. They're not just defending against dragons, they're using dragon tactics against us. This changes everything. Firenation military superiority is based on controlling fire as a weapon. If the Earth Kingdom has developed their own fire weapons, the strategic balance shifts dramatically. The hunters are becoming the hunted. The second wave begins its attack runs, diving towards selected defensive positions to test response capabilities. This is where tactics meet reality, where careful planning encounters the chaos of actual combat. It's also where people start dying. Suki rolls into her attack dive with fluid precision, targeting a ballista position on the outer wall. The defenders respond instantly, coordinating their fire with practiced efficiency. Arrows fill the air like deadly rain, and the bronze mirrors suddenly make sense as they focus reflected sunlight into beams that can blind dragon riders or overheat dragon scales. You lean forward in the saddle, lance ready for the strike, trusting Suki's instincts to navigate the defensive fire. She breathes a controlled burst of flame that clears the ballista crew from their position, then banks sharply to avoid the counterattack from adjacent defensive positions. Target eliminated, you report, but they're coordinating their response. This isn't random defensive fire, it's integrated tactical coverage. The other riders execute their attack runs with varying degrees of success. Some achieve their objectives and extract cleanly. Others encounter fierce resistance that forces immediate withdrawal. One dragon takes a direct hit from an Earth Kingdom fire weapon and crashes into the outer wall in an explosion of stone and flame. "Rider down," Captain Zhao's voice is grim through the crystal. "All units, extract immediately. We have the information we need." The flight back to Fire Nation territory is silent except for the steady rhythm of dragon wing beats and the occasional crackle of communication crystals. You've learned what you came to discover. The Earth Kingdom has evolved, adapted, found ways to fight back effectively against Fire Nation tactics. The debriefing takes place in a medical facility where injured dragons and riders receive treatment for combat wounds. The smell of healing salves and burn ointments mingles with the ever-present sulphur scent of the Fire Nation capital. It's a reminder that war has costs that extend beyond strategic objectives and casualty statistics. General Iroh reviews the intelligence reports with careful attention, cross-referencing observations from multiple riders to build a comprehensive picture of Ba Sing Se's new defensive capabilities. His expression grows increasingly grave as the full scope of the Earth Kingdom's preparations becomes apparent. "They've studied our tactics," he concludes, "analysed our strengths and developed specific countermeasures. The fire weapons are reverse-engineered from captured Fire Nation equipment. The defensive coordination follows our own manual for anti-dragon operations. They're using our own strategies against us." This is both impressive and deeply troubling. Military doctrine assumes technological and tactical superiority. When the enemy achieves parity, superior numbers and defensive advantages become decisive factors. Ba Sing Se has both. "Recommendations," General Iroh asks the assembled officers. Captain Zhao speaks first. "Direct assault is no longer viable. Casualties would be prohibitive and success uncertain. We need alternative approaches, such as siege warfare, cut off supplies, wait for surrender through attrition. It's slower but more certain, and requires resources we may not have," another officer objects. "The Earth Kingdom has extensive agricultural territories. They can sustain a siege longer than we can maintain one." The discussion continues for hours, exploring options that range from innovative to desperate. Infiltration missions, diplomatic negotiations, economic warfare, alliance building with Earth Kingdom's separatist factions. Each approach has merits and drawbacks, risks and potential benefits. You listen to the debate with growing understanding that this war is more complex than simple conquest. It's become a chess match between civilizations, each side adapting and evolving in response to the other's moves. Victory requires not just military strength, but strategic flexibility and the ability to think several moves ahead. Late that evening, You sit with Suki in the medical facility's recovery wing, tending to minor burns she sustained during the mission. Dragon scales are naturally fire-resistant, but prolonged exposure to extreme heat can cause damage. She bears the treatment with patient dignity, occasionally huffing small puffs of smoke that you've learned to interpret as expressions of mild annoyance. "We did good today," you tell her quietly, applying healing salve to a scorched patch on her left wing. "Got the information they needed, brought everyone home who could make it back." Suki's response is a low rumble that vibrates through her chest. It's not quite a purr, not quite a growl, but something that suggests contentment mixed with readiness for whatever comes next. Dragons live in the present moment while remaining prepared for future challenges, a philosophy that's both practical and enviable. The mission has changed your understanding of the war and your role in it. You're not just a dragon rider anymore, you're a participant in a conflict that will determine the future of entire civilizations. The responsibility is overwhelming and inescapable. Tomorrow brings new missions, new challenges, new opportunities to serve the Fire Nation's expansion or die trying. It's a future filled with uncertainty and danger, but also with the possibility of being part of something historically significant. 3 months after the Basingsi Reconnaissance, you're summoned to a meeting that officially doesn't exist. The location is a chamber deep within the Fire Nation's most secure facility, carved directly from volcanic bedrock and accessible only through passages known to a select few. The very existence of this place is classified information that could get you executed for knowing about it. The chamber contains artifacts that predate the current Fire Nation by centuries. Ancient dragon saddles made from materials that no longer exist. Weapons forged using techniques lost to time. Stone tablets covered in script that combines human writing with something that might be dragon communication symbols. Master Jong Jong is there, along with General Iroh and several other high-ranking officials whose faces you recognize but whose names you're probably not supposed to know. At the center of the gathering stands an elderly woman whose presence commands immediate attention, despite her small stature and simple robes. "This is Avatar Roku," General Iroh says quietly, "the last of the ancient dragon riders." Avatar Roku's eyes hold depth that suggests she's seen centuries of history unfold. Her hands are marked with scars that form patterns too precise to be accidental, and when she moves there's a fluidity that speaks of perfect harmony between human and dragon consciousness. "Young riders," her voice carries despite its softness, "you've been brought here to learn truths that the Fire Nation has forgotten in its pursuit of conquest. The relationship between dragons and humans was not always one of domestication and military service. The ancient texts," she explains, "describe a time when dragons and humans were true partners, when the bond between rider and mount transcended simple cooperation and achieved something approaching telepathic unity. The original Fire Nation was built not on conquest but on this partnership, a civilization that combined human creativity with dragon wisdom. The techniques have been lost," Avatar Roku continues, "diluted by generations of military focus and political manipulation, but they can be recovered by those willing to risk everything for a deeper understanding." Master Jong Jong steps forward. "The war with the Earth Kingdom has reached a stalemate. Our conventional advantages are being neutralized, and their defensive capabilities continue to improve. We need something new, something they cannot anticipate or counter." "The ancient bond," Avatar Roku nods. "True partnership between dragon and rider creates capabilities that neither species can achieve alone. Enhanced strength, synchronized thoughts, and most importantly, the ability to channel fire not as a weapon, but as a creative force." She leads you to a stone tablet covered in intricate carvings. The images show humans and dragons moving in perfect synchronization, their actions creating not destruction but growth, transformation, new possibilities emerging from controlled application of flame. "This is why you were selected," she tells you directly. "Your bond with your dragon shows potential for deeper connection. Suki has chosen you not just as a rider, but as a true partner. The question is whether you're willing to accept the risks involved in pursuing that partnership." The training takes place in a location that exists on no official maps, a volcanic island where the boundary between the physical world and something deeper becomes permeable. The island is home to wild dragons, ancient creatures who never accepted domestication. and maintain traditions that predate human civilization. Avatar Roku guides you through meditation techniques that are part spiritual discipline, part survival training. Learning to quiet your human thoughts enough to perceive dragon consciousness requires letting go of assumptions about individual identity and separate existence. Dragons think in images, emotions, and direct experience, she explains. Human language is linear, sequential, limited by vocabulary and grammar. True communication requires abandoning words and thinking in the same patterns dragons use naturally. Suki participates in the training with obvious interest, her behaviour becoming more attentive and focused than you've ever seen. She seems to understand the potential in these exercises, the possibility of achieving something unprecedented in your partnership. The first breakthrough comes during a synchronized flying exercise. Instead of giving Suki direction through physical cues, you attempt to share your intentions directly through mental imagery. The result is immediate and startling. She responds to your thoughts before you can translate them into action, anticipating maneuvers you haven't yet begun. Good, Avatar Roku observes. Now try sharing perception. Let her see through your eyes while you experience her dragon senses. The sensation is overwhelming. Dragons perceive electromagnetic fields, temperature variations, air pressure changes, and emotional states as directly as humans see colours. The world becomes a symphony of information that human consciousness isn't designed to process simultaneously. But gradually, with practice and Suki's patient cooperation, you learn to handle the expanded awareness. Your understanding of flight dynamics improves dramatically when you can feel air currents the way dragons do. Your combat reflexes sharpen when you can sense opponents' emotional states and anticipate their reactions. The advanced exercises push the boundaries of what you thought possible. Synchronized breathing that allows you to channel fire through combined effort, creating controlled flames with precision and intensity beyond normal dragon capabilities. Shared consciousness that lets you process tactical information at dragon speed while maintaining human strategic thinking. This is what the ancient Fire Nation achieved, Avatar Roku explains during a rest period. Not conquest through superior firepower, but harmony through deeper understanding. They built their civilization through cooperation with dragons, not domination over them. The wild dragons observe your training with obvious interest. They've never seen humans attempt the ancient techniques, and their reactions range from curiosity to skeptical amusement. One massive elderly dragon approaches during a meditation session, studying you and Suki with ancient eyes that hold centuries of accumulated wisdom. The old dragon extends his consciousness toward yours, a gentle mental touch that carries images and emotions spanning decades of experience. You see the Fire Nation's gradual transformation from partnership-based society to military empire, the slow deterioration of true human-dragon bonds into simple utilitarian relationships. After weeks of intensive training, you and Suki achieve something extraordinary: true synchronization. Your consciousness merge temporarily during deep meditation, creating a combined awareness that experiences reality from both human and dragon perspectives simultaneously. The sensation is indescribable. You retain your individual identity while also experiencing Suki's dragon nature directly. Her memories become accessible, her instincts integrate with your reasoning, her physical capabilities extend your own potential beyond normal human limitations. This is the goal, Avatar Roku says, her voice filled with satisfaction and something approaching reverence. Perfect partnership, absolute trust, complete mutual understanding. You're no longer simply a rider and mount, you are a unified entity with capabilities neither species could achieve alone. The practical applications become apparent during combat exercises against multiple opponents. Fighting with perfect coordination, sharing sensory information and tactical processing, you and Suki move with precision that borders on prescient. Your opponents can't predict your actions because your decisions emerge from combined consciousness that processes information faster and more comprehensively than individual thinking. But the deeper bond comes with risks. Extended synchronization can blur the boundaries between individual identity and shared consciousness. Some ancient riders, Avatar Roku warns, became so integrated with their dragons that they lost the ability to function as separate beings. The bond must be chosen consciously and maintained carefully, she cautions. It offers power, but power always requires wisdom to use responsibly. The ancient Fire Nation fell because later generations chose domination over partnership, conquest over cooperation. The final test involves demonstrating your capabilities before the wild dragons, proving that humans can still achieve the ancient bond despite centuries of military conditioning. The trial takes place at sunset, when the boundary between day and night mirrors the balance between human and dragon consciousness. You and Suki perform a synchronized flight routine that incorporates combat maneuvers, artistic expression, and pure joy in movement. Your combined fire breathing creates patterns that are both beautiful and deadly, controlled destruction that shapes the environment rather than simply consuming it. The wild dragons respond with approval, their roars echoing across the volcanic peaks in recognition of what you've achieved. The elderly dragon who observed your training approaches and touches his forehead to yours, sharing a memory of the ancient Fire Nation at its height, when dragon riders were architects of civilization rather than instruments of war. As you prepare to return to the capital, Avatar Roku provides final guidance. You now possess abilities that could change the course of the war, but more importantly, you understand principles that could transform the Fire Nation itself. Use this knowledge wisely. The future of both our species may depend on choices you make. Your new abilities are put to immediate test when General Iroh assigns you to a deep reconnaissance mission that's either brilliant strategy or elaborate suicide. The objective is to infiltrate Earth Kingdom territory, gather intelligence about their latest defensive innovations, and identify potential weaknesses in their supply lines. It's the kind of mission that requires skills beyond normal military training. The infiltration route takes you through the Serpent's Pass, a mountain corridor that connects Fire Nation territory with the Earth Kingdom's northern provinces. It's treacherous terrain where dragons must fly low to avoid detection, navigating through canyon systems that offer concealment, but also create perfect conditions for ambushes. Suki's enhanced senses, sharpened by your deep bond, detect Earth Kingdom patrols long before visual contact. She can smell their campfires, hear their conversations carried on wind currents, and sense the electromagnetic signatures of their metal equipment. This early warning system proves invaluable for avoiding detection during the journey. The Earth Kingdom has evolved since your last encounter. Their patrols include earthbenders who can create instant fortifications and anti-aircraft positions, turning any encounter into a complex tactical situation. They've also developed camouflage techniques that hide their positions from aerial observation, using natural earth colours and vegetation to blend into the landscape. 3 days into the mission, you encounter something unexpected. Earth Kingdom forces using fire weapons of their own. Not captured Fire Nation equipment, but original designs that incorporate earthbending techniques with fire-based projectiles. They're creating hybrid weapons that combine the destructive power of flame with the precision control of earthbending. This changes the strategic calculation, you report through encrypted communication crystal. They're not just adapting to our tactics, they're developing independent fire capabilities. The technological advantage is shifting. General Iroh's response is immediate and concerning. Continue reconnaissance. Determine extent of their fire weapon deployment and identify production facilities if possible. This intelligence takes priority over all other objectives. The mission extends deeper into Earth Kingdom territory, following supply routes and communication lines to trace the source of the new weapons. Your enhanced bond with Suki allows for extended flight periods with minimal rest, pushing the boundaries of normal dragon endurance through shared energy and synchronized rest cycles. You discover a network of hidden facilities where Earth Kingdom engineers are mass-producing hybrid weapons under the guidance of captured Fire Nation technicians. The scale of production suggests they're preparing for a major offensive, not just improving defensive capabilities. The Earth Kingdom's strategic preparations extend beyond surface facilities. Using your enhanced senses, you detect extensive underground construction projects that connect their major cities through tunnel systems large enough for troop movement and supply transportation. They're building a hidden infrastructure that would allow rapid military deployment while remaining invisible to aerial surveillance. The tunnels represent a fundamental challenge to Fire Nation military doctrine. Dragon-based warfare relies on controlling airspace and maintaining superior mobility. Underground movement systems neutralize these advantages and create opportunities for Earth Kingdom forces to achieve strategic surprise. During a particularly dangerous reconnaissance flight, you encounter something that changes your understanding of the conflict entirely: Earth Kingdom Dragon Riders. Not captured Firenation mounts, but native Earth Kingdom dragons that have been trained specifically for tunnel fighting and underground combat. These dragons are different from Firenation breeds, smaller and more maneuverable, with enhanced digging capabilities and fire breath adapted for confined spaces. Their riders wear armour designed for underground combat and carry weapons optimised for tunnel fighting. They represent a completely new category of military capability. Report status crackles through your communication crystal. Contact with hostile dragon riders, you respond, while Suki executes evasive maneuvers through narrow canyon passages. Earth Kingdom has developed indigenous dragon cavalry. Repeat, they have their own dragon riders. The engagement is brief, but intense. The Earth Kingdom dragons are skilled tunnel fighters, but they lack experience with aerial combat in open terrain. Suki's superior flying ability and your combined tactical processing allow you to disengage without casualties. But the encounter demonstrates how rapidly the strategic situation is evolving. The intelligence you've gathered paints a picture of comprehensive Earth Kingdom military modernization. They're not just resisting Firenation expansion, they're preparing for a counter-offensive that would leverage their new capabilities to achieve strategic objectives of their own. The return journey proves more challenging than infiltration. Earth Kingdom patrols have increased in frequency and coordination, suggesting they're aware of Firenation reconnaissance activities. The skies that provided concealment during inbound travel now offer multiple opportunities for detection and interception. Suki's stamina begins to flag during the final approach to Firenation territory. Extended use of enhanced capabilities exacts a physical toll that normal dragon physiology isn't designed to sustain. Your shared bond allows you to support her through energy transfer, but the process leaves both of you exhausted and vulnerable. Emergency landing becomes necessary when Earth Kingdom pursuit forces corner you in a narrow canyon system. The engagement that follows tests every aspect of your training and partnership. Fighting while physically depleted, using terrain features for tactical advantage, and coordinating fire breathing with evasive maneuvers in confined spaces. The battle is won through strategic use of your deep bond abilities. Synchronized consciousness allows perfect coordination despite physical exhaustion, while shared sensory perception provides tactical advantages that compensate for numerical disadvantage. But victory comes at significant cost. Both you and Suki sustain injuries that require immediate medical attention. The intelligence debriefing takes place in a medical facility, while you recover from burns and Suki receives treatment for wing damage. General Iroh and his staff review your reports with expressions that combine professional interest with deep concern about strategic implications. The situation is worse than we anticipated, General Iroh concludes. The Earth Kingdom isn't just defending anymore, they're preparing for offensive operations. Their new capabilities could shift the entire balance of the war. Captain Zhao raises tactical questions about counter-strategies. How do we fight an enemy with underground mobility and indigenous dragon cavalry? Our operational doctrines assume air superiority and open terrain advantages. We adapt, General Iroh replies. Just as they've adapted to our strategies, we must evolve our own approaches. The war is entering a new phase that will require innovation, flexibility, and possibly fundamental changes to our military structure. The conversation continues long into the night, exploring options that range from diplomatic negotiation to technological escalation. Your intelligence has provided crucial strategic information, but it's also revealed the extent of challenges facing Firenation military leadership. As you drift off to sleep in the medical facility, Suki resting nearby with her wing injuries carefully bandaged, you reflect on how much has changed since your first day in dragon training. The simple world of learning to ride fire-breathing mounts has evolved into participation in a conflict that will determine the future of entire civilizations. The War Council convenes at dawn in the Fire Lord's private chambers, a meeting so classified that its existence is denied by everyone who attends it. The intelligence you've gathered has forced a complete reassessment of Firenation strategic planning, and the conclusions aren't encouraging for anyone who prefers sleeping peacefully at night. Firelord Ozai reviews the tactical situation with the cold precision of someone calculating acceptable losses. The Earth Kingdom's new capabilities have created a military stalemate that could drag on for decades, consuming resources the Firenation doesn't have while allowing enemy strength to continue growing. Conventional victory is no longer achievable within acceptable timeframes, he announces to the assembled commanders. We require alternative approaches that leverage our remaining advantages while negating their new capabilities. General Iroh presents the strategic options, each more desperate than the last. Escalated dragon raids against civilian targets to break Earth Kingdom morale, economic warfare to disrupt their supply chains and production facilities, diplomatic initiatives with water tribe and air nomad communities to create multi-front pressure. There is one additional option, Avatar Roku speaks from her position near the window, her voice carrying weight despite its quietness. The ancient techniques could provide capabilities beyond current military thinking. The room falls silent. Everyone present knows the theoretical potential of the deep bond between dragons and riders, but using it for military purposes crosses ethical boundaries that the Fire Nation has maintained despite its aggressive expansion policies. Explain, Firelord Ozai commands. Avatar Roku approaches the tactical maps with reluctant steps. Perfect synchronization between human and dragon consciousness creates capabilities that transcend individual limitations, enhance speed, strength, tactical processing, and most significantly, the ability to channel fire as a creative rather than destructive force. She traces patterns on the map that show how synchronized dragon riders could reshape battlefields through controlled fire, creating defensive positions, destroying specific targets while leaving surroundings intact, and coordinating attacks with precision impossible for conventional forces. The risks, she continues, include permanent psychological integration, loss of individual identity, and the possibility that riders who achieve deep bonds will refuse to participate in conquest-based warfare. Firelord Ozai considers this information with calculating attention. How many riders could achieve this level of synchronization? With intensive training, perhaps 50 pairs, Avatar Roku estimates, but they would need to volunteer willingly. Forced synchronization results in madness or death for both human and dragon. The debate that follows reveals fundamental tensions within Fire Nation leadership. Military commanders argue for utilizing any advantage available, while others express concern about unleashing forces that might prove impossible to control. The recruitment announcement is distributed quietly through Dragon Rider units, presented as an opportunity for advanced training with unspecified strategic applications. The selection criteria emphasize psychological stability, strong existing bonds with Dragon partners, and willingness to undertake classified assignments with significant personal risk. 53 riders volunteer. The selection process eliminates all but 27 pairs deemed suitable for deep synchronization training. You and Suki are among those chosen, a recognition of your existing abilities and demonstrated potential for deeper partnership. The intensive training takes place at the hidden volcanic island where you first learned advanced techniques. Avatar Roku supervises the program with assistance from Master Jongjong and other instructors who've maintained knowledge of ancient methods despite official discouragement. The training proves more demanding than anything you've previously experienced, physical conditioning that pushes both human and dragon bodies to their limits. Meditation practices that require maintaining conscious awareness while allowing ego boundaries to dissolve. Combat exercises that integrate perfect synchronization with tactical flexibility. Several rider pairs wash out during the first week, unable to achieve the psychological integration necessary for deep bonding. Others succeed partially but prove unable to maintain synchronization under stress conditions. The attrition rate confirms Avatar Roku's warnings about the rarity of successful deep bonds. Your partnership with Suki deepens beyond anything you thought possible. Extended synchronization becomes natural, requiring minimal effort to achieve and maintain. Your combined capabilities far exceed the sum of individual strengths, creating tactical advantages that border on supernatural. But success comes with disturbing side effects. Maintaining separate identity becomes increasingly difficult during synchronized states. Sometimes you're uncertain whether thoughts originate from human or dragon consciousness. Dreams blend memories from both perspectives, creating confusion about individual experience and shared awareness. This is the price of transcendence, Avatar Roku explains during a counselling session designed to help riders maintain psychological stability. Perfect partnership requires accepting that self becomes a fluid concept. You remain individuals, but you also become something greater than individual existence. The other successful riders report similar experiences. Shared consciousness creates capabilities and understanding that single-species awareness cannot achieve, but it challenges fundamental assumptions about identity and independent existence. Several riders request removal from the program, choosing normal dragon partnership over transcendent but psychologically demanding deep bonds. The successful riders are organised into a special unit designated the Shadow Wing, operating under direct orders from Firenation High Command, with capabilities and objectives known only to the highest levels of military leadership. Your mission parameters are simple. Prepare for deployment against Earth Kingdom positions that conventional forces cannot engage effectively. Training focuses on precision strikes against hardened targets, coordinated attacks that require perfect synchronization between multiple rider pairs, and rapid extraction from high-threat environments. The emphasis on precision rather than destruction reflects the Shadow Wing's intended role as surgical instruments rather than blunt weapons of conquest. The deep bonds create group dynamics unlike anything in conventional military units. Synchronized riders can share tactical information instantaneously, coordinate maneuvers with inhuman precision, and maintain formation integrity under conditions that would scatter normal dragon cavalry. You become part of a collective consciousness while retaining individual identity and decision-making capability. Combat exercises against simulated Earth Kingdom defences demonstrate the Shadow Wing's unprecedented effectiveness. Targets that would require massive conventional attacks can be eliminated by coordinated precision strikes. Underground facilities become accessible through synchronized digging and fire-shaping techniques. Enemy forces trained to counter normal dragon tactics prove vulnerable to approaches they cannot anticipate or counter. But the psychological integration continues deepening beyond comfortable levels. Extended operations require maintaining synchronization for days at a time, creating persistent blending of human and dragon consciousness that makes normal social interaction increasingly difficult. You find yourself thinking in images and emotions rather than words, communicating through mental impressions rather than verbal language. The other Shadow Wing riders experience similar psychological evolution. Conversations become unnecessary when intentions can be shared directly through dragon-enhanced awareness. Individual privacy becomes a concept that seems increasingly artificial and limiting. The boundaries between self and other begin dissolving in ways that are both liberating and terrifying. Avatar Roku monitors these developments with growing concern. You're achieving capabilities that surpass anything in recorded history, she tells the assembled riders during a psychological evaluation session. But you're also becoming something other than purely human. The question is whether that transformation serves your original purposes or transcends them entirely. The answer remains unclear as the Shadow Wing completes its training and prepares for operational deployment. You possess abilities that could end the war quickly and decisively, but using them requires accepting permanent changes to your fundamental nature and relationship with reality itself. The deployment order arrives at midnight, delivered by messenger dragon and sealed with the Fire Lord's personal mark. The Shadow Wing is tasked with eliminating a critical Earth Kingdom facility that intelligence reports describe as their primary dragon breeding and training center. Success would cripple their ability to expand their indigenous dragon cavalry, while demonstrating Firenation capabilities that might force strategic negotiations. The target is located deep within Earth Kingdom territory, protected by their most advanced defences and surrounded by multiple layers of conventional and dragon-based security. It represents exactly the kind of challenge the Shadow Wing was created to address. Impossible for conventional forces, but potentially achievable through capabilities that transcend normal limitations. Mission planning reveals the full scope of what you've become. Synchronized tactical processing allows the entire wing to analyze intelligence, evaluate options, and coordinate responses with speed and precision that individual human thinking cannot achieve. The planning session resembles telepathic collaboration more than traditional military briefing. Approach vector here, Captain Zhao indicates on the tactical display, his thoughts flowing directly into the shared consciousness network. primary objectives are breeding facilities and training infrastructure. Secondary targets include supply depots and command structures. The mission requires flying through Earth Kingdom airspace for 6 hours, penetrating defensive perimeters that have been specifically designed to counter Firenation dragon tactics, and executing precision strikes against targets defended by indigenous dragon cavalry, trained for underground and confined space combat. Extraction routes. Avatar Roku adds her analysis to the collective planning process. Multiple options depending on enemy response patterns and casualty situations. Primary emphasis remains mission completion, but survival probability should remain above 60% for operational approval. 60% survival probability. In normal military operations, such odds would be considered unacceptable for all but the most critical strategic objectives. For the Shadow Wing, they represent favourable conditions given the target's importance and defensive capabilities. The pre-mission ritual includes individual meditation to strengthen psychological barriers that prevent complete identity dissolution during extended synchronization. Each rider must maintain enough individual awareness to make independent decisions, while participating fully in collective consciousness that guides tactical coordination. Suki's preparation involves her own meditation practices that dragons use to maintain identity coherence during deep bonding. Her consciousness touches yours during the ritual, sharing reassurance and determination that transcends species boundaries. She understands the mission's importance and accepts the risks involved in pursuing it. The approach flight takes place in pre-dawn darkness, with the Shadow Wing maintaining perfect formation through shared spatial awareness rather than visual reference. Your collective consciousness processes navigation, threat detection, and tactical coordination simultaneously, while individual pairs handle the physical demands of extended high-speed flight. Earth Kingdom territory appears below as a patchwork of agricultural areas, forest regions, and defensive installations connected by the underground tunnel systems discovered during previous reconnaissance. Intelligence reports indicate increased activity throughout the region, suggesting the Earth Kingdom anticipates Firenation operations and has deployed additional defensive measures. Defensive perimeter contact in 30 seconds flows through the collective awareness without need for verbal communication. Enemy dragon patrols become visible on the horizon, their flight patterns coordinated to provide overlapping coverage of potential approach routes. The engagement begins with precision that reflects perfect synchronization between 27 rider pairs. Each shadowing dragon targets specific enemy positions while maintaining coordination with adjacent units. The resulting attack unfolds with clockwork precision, eliminating the perimeter patrol before they can alert interior defences. But the Earth Kingdom's preparations proved more extensive than anticipated. Secondary defensive positions activate immediately after the perimeter engagement, revealing hidden ballista emplacements and fire weapon batteries that create overlapping fields of deadly coverage throughout the approach corridor. Adaptive response required. The collective consciousness processes the new threat information with inhuman speed. The Shadow Wing formation shifts fluidly, individual pairs taking on specialized roles that emerge organically from shared tactical awareness. Suki dives beneath the defensive fire alongside 3 other dragons, using terrain features and atmospheric conditions to mask approach vectors. Your enhanced bond allows navigation through narrow canyon passages at speeds that would be suicidal for conventional riders, trusting completely in her judgment and spatial awareness. The dragon breeding facility appears ahead, a massive complex carved directly into a mountain face, with extensive underground components visible through thermal imaging that your enhanced senses provide. The scale is staggering. This isn't just a training centre, it's a full industrial operation capable of supporting hundreds of dragons and their riders. Primary target acquired flows through the network. Defensive capabilities exceed intelligence estimates. Earth Kingdom dragon cavalry in defensive positions throughout the facility. The revelation changes everything. This isn't a surgical strike against a strategic target. It's a full-scale battle against prepared enemies fighting on home ground with indigenous advantages. The mission parameters shift from precision elimination to desperate combat for survival. The Shadow Wing engages the Earth Kingdom dragon cavalry in combat that transcends anything in military history. Dragons battle dragons in aerial duels that combine primal ferocity with tactical sophistication, while riders coordinate attacks through shared consciousness networks that process information faster than individual thought. Your deep bond with Suki reaches new levels of integration as combat stress pushes both your capabilities beyond known limits. Time seems to slow as enhanced perception processes enemy movements, tactical options, and coordinated responses with supernatural clarity. You move as one entity with capabilities that neither human nor dragon could achieve independently. The battle rages across the mountain complex with Shadow Wing precision meeting Earth Kingdom determination in a conflict that will determine the course of the war. Synchronized fire breathing creates patterns of controlled destruction that eliminate specific targets while leaving crucial infrastructure intact, demonstrating capabilities that force enemy tactical adaptation in real time. But as the engagement intensifies, something unprecedented begins occurring. The deep synchronization between Shadow Wing riders starts connecting not just with their own dragons, but creating links between all the dragons present, including the Earth Kingdom mounts. Ancient dragon consciousness awakens as the battle triggers genetic memories that predate human civilization. The original bond between all dragons resurfaces, creating a collective awareness that transcends national allegiances and military objectives. Earth Kingdom and fire. Nation dragons begin responding to shared impulses that override their training and conditioning. Something's changing, you manage to communicate through the chaos, feeling Suki's consciousness expanding beyond individual identity to encompass connections with dragons she's never met. The bonds are spreading. All the dragons are connecting. Avatar Roku's voice crackles through the communication crystals with urgency and something approaching awe. This was always the risk. True synchronization awakens the ancient dragon collective consciousness. They're remembering what they were before humans divided them into separate nations. The combat gradually transforms from military engagement into something unprecedented in recorded history. Dragons from both sides begin coordinating their actions not according to human orders, but following ancient patterns that emerge from species memory. Riders find themselves passengers in a process that transcends individual will or national loyalty. The Earth Kingdom facility becomes the nexus for awakening that spreads outward through mysterious connections that dragons maintain across vast distances. In Firenation territory, dragons begin experiencing shared visions and collective impulses. In other Earth Kingdom installations, mounts start questioning orders that conflict with emerging species-wide consciousness. As the sun rises over the battlefield, you realize that the Shadow Wing mission has achieved something far beyond its original objectives. The war between Firenation and Earth Kingdom becomes secondary to a transformation that affects every dragon and rider on both sides. Suki's consciousness merges not just with yours, but with the awakening dragon collective that spans continents and transcends political boundaries. Through her enhanced awareness, you glimpse possibilities that reshape understanding of what the world could become when ancient partnerships are restored. The mission is complete, but its consequences are just beginning. The Shadow Wing returns to Firenation territory, carrying intelligence that changes everything. The war has awakened something that makes human conflict seem small in comparison. In the distance, ancient dragons that have slumbered for centuries begin stirring, responding to calls that echo across the world. The age of divided nations and separate species is ending. The age of dragons has begun. The fire burns eternal in the heart of every dragon, and now, for the first time in 1,000 years, they're all beginning to remember they share the same flame. What started as a war between kingdoms has become something far greater and far more dangerous. The ancient bonds are reawakening, and neither the Fire Nation nor the Earth Kingdom is prepared for what comes next. Thank you for joining this journey through the Age of Flame. The story continues when dragons and humans must choose between the world they've built and the world they were meant to create together. Until next time, keep your fires burning bright and your dragons close. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think happens when every dragon in the world starts sharing the same dream?